Welcome everyone to the next lecture on numerical on economic dispatch part 1. This is Professor Vishal Maitre from Department of Electrical Engineering, Bharati Vidyapeeth, deemed to be University College of Engineering, Pune. So, we have already covered all the topics that are related to the optimal power flow analysis, AC/DC load flow analysis, and power system security along with contingency analysis. Now let us go through the numericals that are related to the economic dispatch. I have divided this into two parts. Some topics or some numericals will be related to the economic dispatch with certain constraints without losses, and in part 2 we will consider the limits on the generator along with the losses that have occurring in the system. Also we will see the various concepts that or the various outputs that we are going to get the result from the result, and we will have the discussion on that particular topic. So let us continue with the numerical on economic dispatch part 1. This is going to be the video lecture number 12. So let us continue now. As per the theory which is covered already in the previous videos, I have covered here the certain numericals that are going to support the theoretical concepts, so it will be easy for you to understand when you go through these particular videos. Now, as an example, I have considered an input output characteristics of two generating units. So, for an example, let us consider that there are two generating units whose function is dependent as a quadratic function, as we have discussed that it should be a quadratic function. So we can see that this is degree 2, this is going to be the quadratic function. So one generator is having the function of 0.0008 pg1 square plus 0.2 pg1 plus 5 British thermal unit per hour. So here we have considered in BTU the units can be changed. Similarly, for the second generator, we have taken 0.0005 pg2 square plus zero point 0.3 pg2 plus 4 BTU per hour. Now suppose with this particular data, we want to find the economic operation of the two units when the total demand is around 500 megawatt. So let us see how to calculate this particular economic operation for the two units and how the power output is distributed for the two generating units. So first of all, what we have to do is we have to calculate the incremental fuel rate of the two generating units. Note that here this numerical is related to equal incremental rate. So the incremental rate factor, we are denoting it by lambda 1 and lambda 2 for the two generating units. So this lambda in equal incremental rate, we are going to consider it equal. So the lambda 1 is going to be the function of first generator with respect to the generator power output for the first. Similarly, the second incremental factor is going to be the second function divided by the second generator output. So we have to take the derivative of this particular equation. So when we take the derivative of this equation, we get 0.0016 pg1 plus 0.2. Similarly, for the second generator, df2 by dpg2, when we take derivative of this particular equation, we get 0.001 pg2 plus 0.3. So note that we are taking the derivative of first equation with respect to pg1 and second equation with respect to pg2. So this is going to be very important for the incremental rate point of view. Now, as I have discussed that as per the principle of equal incremental rate, we are concentrating on equal incremental rate for this particular example. So let us take lambda 1 equal to lambda 2, that is the factor these two incremental fuel rate that we are going to make it equal. So here what we are doing, we are minimizing the fuel rate by having the equal incremental rate for both the generators, so that the power output is going to satisfy the demand of 500 megawatt for this particular example. So when we equate both the equations, on the left side we can see lambda 1 is 0.0016 pg1 plus 0.2, that will be equal to 0.001 pg2 plus 0.3. So when we solve this particular equation, we get an expression which is going to be a part of 1. combination of two unknowns, that is going to be Pg1 and Pg2. So this is going to be the equation. Once we get one particular equation, the second equation we can get is the system load is 500 megawatt, which is given. So we can say that the two generators will contribute together to 500 megawatt, that is going to be required by the demand. So Pg1 plus Pg2 will be 500. Now we have two equations, two unknowns. So when solving these particular equations, we get Pg1 as 230.77 megawatt and Pg2 is 269.23 megawatt. So overall, when you take the summation of these two will be equal to 500. So here we can see that Pg2 is contributing more towards the demand. So that is going to be the based on equal incremental rate. The values are different depending on the equations that was given in this particular numerical. So this is the value of Pg1 and Pg2. So from this particular numerical, we should understand that when the equal incremental rate is there, we equate it, we get one particular equation. The other equation, we can obtain it from the demand, which is the summation of both the generating units. And after solving the two equations, we get the value of Pg1 and Pg2. So this is going to be one part of the numerical. Let us go to the second part. Now suppose we have already discussed the previous example. Example 4.2 is the previous example which we have considered. Now suppose we take the input output characteristics of the two generating units, which is slightly more difference as compared to the previous example. So if we want to compare, we can see here this is the particular equation and here we are comparing it. Only what we have done is here instead of 0.2 we have taken 0.002. Only that is the difference, nothing apart from that. So rest everything is same, only this part is changing as compared to the previous example. These two factors are changed. So 500 megawatt demand, we are keeping it as it is. Now let us follow the same procedure. That is the first step, we calculate the value of incremental rate for first generator, that is lambda 1 equal to df1 by dpg1, that will be equal to 0.0016 when we take the derivative of this, and 0.002 with respect to pg1. Second, for the second generator, we take the incremental factor lambda 2 equal to df2 by dpg2, that will be equal to 0.001 pg2 plus 0.003. Again, we have taken the differentiation of this second equation with respect to dpg2. Now, as per the same principle, when we get is equal incremental rate, that is lambda 1 equal to lambda 2 in terms of fuel rate. So when again equating these two particular equations, when we solve these two particular equations, we get the result as 1.6 pg1 minus pg2 equal to 10. So the second equation remains as per the previous numerical, pg1 plus pg2, that will be equal to 500. Now solving these two particular equations, we get some different output. So Pg1 is now 196.15 megawatt and Pg2 is 303.85 megawatt. So it happened due to the change in the factor that we have considered for Pg1, Pg2. So if these two factors are changing, then it is going to directly affect the uh, or you can say the distributed generation to satisfy the load demand. So 5 and 4, whatever is this constant, it is not going to affect much for the generator output, but these two factors are very much effective for calculating the power output. We have seen these two examples. From these two examples, we can see 230.77 was there for pg1, now it has reduced to 196.15. Earlier for this pg2 it was 269.23 megawatt, now it has increased to 303.85. So it has changed because of the change in these two factors. So this is going to be very beneficial to know that these four factors which are there for two particular generators that are going to have the result variation in the result as per the input whatever we are giving. So depending upon the number of generator, that many factors we have to consider. So for two generator we are considering 4, when we are having 3 generators we will consider 6, and so on. So this is the comparison I have mentioned between the two examples. Now let us go to the next example where we can see still there are, let us consider the 3 generating units. Now in this particular example, when we are considering 3 generating units, now the change here is that we are considering 3 generators. Now in previous two examples we have considered that we have considered only two generators. Now in this particular case we are considering three generators, so we can see that F1 is 0.0006 Pg1 square plus 0.5 Pg1 plus 6 BTU per hour. F2 is 0.0005 Pg2 square plus zero point 0.6 Pg2 plus 5 BTU per hour. F3 is 0.0007 Pg3 square plus zero point 0.4 Pg3 plus 3 BTU per hour. So these three generators are having the input output characteristics. These input output characteristics are obtained by the regression analysis, by the iterative method for regression analysis to obtain the quadratic equation. That particular part we have covered already. You can refer previous video lectures related to optimal power flow analysis in terms of economic dispatch. So that will give you how these equations are obtained from the input output characteristics. Always remember, whatever the generating units we are going to get is always going to be in quadratic equation only. Now here, as compared to previous two numericals that we have considered till now in this particular lecture, apart from this, now let us do something different. Now if we have to satisfy, instead of one demand we have to satisfy two more demand, so let us consider the three units which are delivering a total of 500 megawatt and 800 megawatt demand respectively. So at the same time these three generators are contributing towards the demand for the two units, that is 500 megawatt and 800 megawatt. Now let us go one by one. I've divided it into two parts, part A and B. So you can see part A is going to be the demand for 500 megawatt and part B is going to be the demand for 800 megawatt. Now let us see what happens in case of 500 megawatt. Now if you remember in the previous two examples that we have studied, so we are going to calculate the incremental fuel rates. Now here the incremental fuel rates, now we have to consider three values of fuel rates, that is going to be lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3. Now as I have mentioned, that these six are going to be the output deciding parameters. So these three factors are very important. So if the value is changed in any of these six, then the output is going to change. So it is very important, whatever is the analysis or whatever is the characteristics that we are obtaining it from the graph or any calculation, that has to be accurate. That is why the digits, you can see it is 0.0006. So it has to be very significant digit. It has to be the floating digit as well. Whatever is the actual value, without considering less number of digits, you consider more number of digits to achieve the accuracy in the output. So if we consider lambda 1, that is going to be now df1 by dpg1, that is going to be the derivative of this particular equation with respect to pg1. So we get 0.0012 pg1 plus 0.5. Similarly, for second generator lambda 2, the multiplier or the incremental multiplier will be lambda 2, that will be equal to df2 by dpg2, so it becomes equal to 0.0005 pg2 square plus 0.6 pg2. This term is constant, so it will be equal to 0, so it will be 0.001 pg2 plus 0.6. Similarly for lambda 3, it will be 0.0014 pg3 plus 0.4. Now as we have studied in the equal incremental rate, so we have now, we have to equate lambda 1 equal to lambda 2 equal to lambda 3. All the three are going to contribute towards the equal generation. So when we equate three quantities together, this 0.0012 pg1 plus 0.5 equal to 0.001 pg2 plus 0.6 equal to 0.0014 pg3 plus 0.4. Now from these two equations, what we can do is simple. We have to solve, we can take any two equations, get one equation, solve other two equation, get the second equation. So we can have any combination. So we have taken first and second equation to get first equation, we have taken the first and third case to get the second equation. So when we equate these two equations together, we get 1.2 pg1 minus pg2 equal to 100, and when we equate this first part and the third part, we get 1.2 pg1 minus 1.4 pg3 equal to minus 100. Now note that this minus 100 is depending on the sign conventions. Whatever these two equations we have solved, we have not yet considered the sign conventions here. Now As we know that the given system load is 500 megawatt, then we can say that Pg1 plus Pg2 plus Pg3 will be equal to 500. That is going to be the equal contribution. So we have three equations now for the three unknowns. That is going to be this equation, second equation, and the third equation. When we solve these three equations, sorry, when we solve these three equations, we get Pg1 equal to 172.897 megawatt, Pg2 is 107.477 megawatt, Pg3 is 219.626 megawatt. So what is the case here? The three are not equally distributed. Why it is not equally distributed? It is because of these particular functions what is given at the initial stage. So lambda, when we substitute the value of lambda corresponding fuel rate under this load level, what we have to do is you can consider any values of Pg1, Pg2 or either Pg3. You substitute in any one equation of lambda 1, lambda 2 and lambda 3 because all the three values are equal, lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3. So substitute in any of the equation, any three equation, you will get the equation of value of lambda is 0.70748. So depending on this, we can calculate how much is the fuel rate under the load level when we consider Pg1 172.897 megawatt, Pg2 as 107.477 megawatt, and Pg3 as 219.626 megawatt. Again, when you take the summation of these three generating units, it will contribute towards 500 megawatt. So this was the first case for considering 500 megawatt. Now let us consider the second case when we consider the load demand for 800 megawatt. Again, similar to part A question, we will get the same equation as of now. 1.2 Pg1 minus Pg2 will be equal to 100. 1.2 Pg1 minus 1.4 Pg3 equal to minus 100. So the equation, first two equation will remain same, only the third equation is going to change. That is going to be now Pg1 plus Pg2 plus Pg3 will be equal to 800 because in the case A it was 500. Now we have considered it as 800. So instead of 500 this changes to 800. Now again when we calculate the value of these three, after solving these three equations, we'll get the value of 3 Pg1, Pg2, Pg3, that is 271.028 megawatt. Pg2 is 225.234 megawatt. Pg3 is 303.738 megawatt. So again the values of either Pg1, Pg2, Pg3 you substitute again in any of the three equations, 1 2 any three equations, and calculate the value of lambda. Now in case of 500, when the load was 500 megawatt, when the demand was 500 megawatt, the value of lambda was 0.70748, and when it was 800 it is 0.82523. So here it can be noted that as the demand is increasing, lambda the fuel rate is also increasing. So that is the point to be noted. With how much rate it is going to increase, it depends upon the generating capacity of that particular equation, which is carried or calculated from the input output characteristics. That is going to be very important from the incremental rate point of view. Now let us go to the next example. Now here till now we have studied about no equality constraints on the power output. So here there were no constraints on any of the power output. So we have removed all the constraints for this particular example, that is for 500 megawatt and 800 megawatt, only to understand that how without any constraint how the fuel rate is changing or how it is incrementing as the load is increasing. You can do a simple analysis that instead of 500 and 800 you can go for 1000 megawatt and note down the value of Pg1, Pg2, Pg3 and calculate the value of lambda. Obviously the value of lambda will be 0.82523, so that I will leave as a part of assignment for you. You can calculate the value of lambda and give me your comment. So let us consider the next example where we are now going to concentrate majorly on the constraints on power output. Now suppose we are having constraints on the power output, so we can have inequality constraints. We have studied about equality and inequality constraints. The previous three examples that we have considered till now, all those three examples are related to the equality constraints. There were no inequality constraints we have considered in picture. Now for a change, now let us consider there are certain constraints. Now, you suppose constraints are there in the generating units. Now, we have already discussed this particular topic, that when we are having constraints, if the limits or the limit or the constraints are getting violated, then in that case it is going to achieve the minimum demand, so as to have the power system or the power flow balance between the two generating units. So here we are talking only in terms of active power. Same thing is applicable for reactive power, but here, as we know that the power whatever we are required, we are calculating in active power only, so we are going to focus mainly only on the inequality constraints that we are going to consider in this particular example. Along with this, how to calculate the value of P, or we can say that the incremental rate that we have studied in the previous example. Now, suppose depending on the power system components that are arranged, how much is the synchronous reactance and how much is the power generation from the generating to the load. Depending on all the components that are arranged in the system, we can decide the limits that are going to be imposed on the individual generators. Like for this particular example, we have considered the same example, that is example 4.3. That is, we'll just read the example, that is 4.3. We are considering these two equations, that f1 is 0.008 pg1 square plus 0.002 pg1 plus 5 btu per hour. F2 is 0.0005 pg2 square plus 0.003 pg2 plus 4 btu per hour, and both are satisfying the demand of 500 watt. So this same example we are considering, but additional we are taking the limits that are imposed on the two generators. Like suppose on the generator 1, the generator 1 is going to operate in the limit of 100 and 250 megawatt, so it should have the power output between 100 and 250 megawatt. If it is violating with that limit, then we have to take certain precautions that we are going to see through this particular example. And the second generator has to operate between 150 and 300 megawatt. That is going to be very important to understand. So as we have seen in the example, that is going to satisfy the 500 megawatt with that particular equation. So we got the answer as for output as pg1. This method is same for calculating the value of pg1 and pg2, that is to calculate the value of incremental cost lambda 1 and lambda 2, and then equate those two together as equal incremental rate, and we get the value of pg1 and pg2 after solving two equations for the two unknowns, that is going to be 196.15 megawatt and 303.85 megawatt. So by checking the inequality constraints of the units, we can see the power output of the unit 2 violated its upper limit. So we can see that for PG1 the limit is 100, between 100 and 250. So PG1 has no problem, it is correct. So it has no problem, so it is within the limits. But PG2, if we see, it is just slightly exceeded the higher end, that is 300 megawatt. It has reached 303.85 megawatt. So in this case, what we are going to do is, by checking the, so what we have to do is set the power output of unit to its at its upper limit. So what we have to do is, we have to satisfy it to its upper limit. So if it is going beyond 303.85, so we have to set to it 300. So whatever is this additional 3.85 megawatt, that it has to be incorporated in PG1. So when we have 3.85 added to 196.15, we get it as 200 megawatt. Now PG1 is contributing 200 megawatt and PG2 is contributing 300 megawatt. So this is how the inequality constraints come into picture to adjust the generating unit as the restrictions are there on the generator. So to impose that restrictions, we are having this inequality constraints. So that is the importance of considering the inequality constraints for any particular power output. So that is going to be very beneficial in case of their restrictions, so that the generator should operate in normal operating conditions without violating any limits. So we have to consider this scenario. Let us go to one more example that we have studied. 4.4, let us go back to 4.4. I will just explain you how it is considered. The three input output characteristics that we have considered is f1 is 0.0006 pg1 square plus 0.5 pg1 plus 6 btu per hour. F2 is 0.0005 pg2 square plus 0.6 pg2 plus 5 btu per hour, and F3 is 0.0007 pg3 square plus 0.4 pg3 plus 3 btu, and it is satisfying the demand for 500 and 800 megawatt demand respectively. So the equation and the power output that we are keeping it same. Now based on this, let us consider what is going to be the additional inequality constraints that we have considered. Now for the three generating units, we are considering the inequality constraints as PG1 is operating between 100 and 250 megawatt, PG2 is operating between 100 and 250 megawatt, PG3 is operating in the range of 150 and 350 megawatt. Now based on this particular demand, so let us consider the first example for 500 megawatt. So for 500 megawatt, these are the values which we have calculated from example 4.4. So these are the three values that we have considered directly as it is we have considered. So you can refer that example 4.4 for calculating the values of PG1, PG2, PG3. Now let us go one step further by checking the inequality constraints. Now we have to check PG1 is in 172, so it is within the limits. PG2 is 107, again it is within limits, and PG3 is 219.626, it is within limits. So here all the inequality constraints are well within the limits. So these are going to be the optimum results and there is no violation in the limit. So this is going to impose a lot of benefit for you that to get the optimum result. So for getting the optimum result, what we have to do is we are setting a particular range depending on whatever is the characteristics or whatever is the generation level and how it is going to affect. After setting that range, you can calculate the value and check whether it is within the range or not. If it is within the range, then it is having the optimum result and there is no violation. If it is getting violated, then you have to do certain adjustment in order to achieve the optimum results. That is why we call this as optimal power flow analysis with economic dispatch. It is very helpful for calculating the load demand satisfaction. Now let us see for the second example or second part that is going to satisfy the load demand of 800 megawatt. So the result for 800 megawatt, we have these three values 271, 225 and 303 point certain values. So we have now this 271.28 megawatt, PG2 as 225.234 megawatt, PG3 as 303.738 megawatt. Now if we check the equality constraints, okay, if inequality constraints, PG1 higher limit is 250, but this is exceeded. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to take it as negative of demand that we have already discussed in the lecture. So you can refer that note. PD dash, we can consider it as minus 250 megawatt. Similarly, now when we are solving this particular equations, now what we are doing is we are going to subtract this PD dash from these two generating units. That is going to be 800 minus 250, which comes to be 550. This is going to be the generation which is satisfying the demand apart from PG1, because these two are within the limits. If you check the limits, PG2 is within the limits because it is 225, PG3 is within the limits because it is 350. Only PG1 is getting violated. So for the time being, we will just remove it out because its higher limit is 250. So just remove it out. So we are taking it as negative, and as the overall demand is 800, so we subtract that 250 value from this 800, we get 550, which is going to be the total demand satisfaction which is provided by the two generators, generator 2 and generator 3. Now with these two generator, again we apply the equal incremental principle with those two equation, lambda 2 that is going to be df2 by dpg2. Again we will consider the same equations. Let me go to that equations. Yes, we are considering the same equations 2 and 3. So we are going to consider only 2 and 3. First is ruled out because it is violating the limits. These two are within the limits. So we are taking derivative of second and third. So we can see here now it is going to be 0.00 pg2 plus zero point 0.6, and lambda 3 will be df3 by dpg3, that is going to be 0.0014 pg3 plus 0.4. Now, as the equal incremental rate principle, we can say that these two are equal because they are well within the limits, not violating the limits. So these are going to contribute for the optimum results. So when these two are solved separately, 0.001 Pg2 plus zero point 0.6 will be equal to 0.0014 Pg3 plus zero point 0.4. Now, and we also know that Pg2 minus 1.4 Pg3 equal to minus 200, and the second thing we get Pg2 plus Pg3 equal to 550. So this, solving these two equations, we will get this equation, and we can say that Pg2 plus Pg3 is 500. Solving these two equations, we get this value 237.5 and Pg3 is 312.5, and Pg1 we are setting it at 250 because it had violated the limit, so we got back it within the maximum range, higher side of the maximum range, and accordingly Pg2 and Pg3 generation is adjusted within the limits. So these three results are going to be the optimum analysis for the particular equations. So whatever these three equations we had got, it is okay till the time there is no limit on the generator, but as soon as we import certain restrictions or the limits on the generator in this particular range, if one is violating the limit, then we have to do certain adjustment in other two so that we get the optimum results, and when we get the optimum results, it should have no violations in the results. So hope you understood. Let us have a quick revision what we have done in this particular lecture today. So we have considered first the equal incremental rate. We have considered an example with a certain equation, a normal example where there is no limits, equality constraints for equal incremental rate. The other example we considered by changing the demand, and there we took the inference that as the demand is increasing, the fuel incremental rate will also increase as per the equations that are obtained from the input output characteristics of the number of generators. That is one part. Second part, when we consider the three generating units and it has to satisfy the two generating or the two power demands, in that case how we are getting the three equations and we have to satisfy the two demands for part A and B. After that, we have considered the inequality constraints for both the examples for the two generators, where we had considered inequality constraints or certain limits were being provided for both the generators on the lower side and higher side. If they are within the limits, then we can say that those are the optimum results as they are not violating the limits. If they are violating the limits, then you have to adjust the other generator who is within the limits, but you can increase its generation up to certain value so that the first generator will be in the range to get the optimum results. And in the other example, we saw the three generating units, out of which one generating units was there, and it was within the limit. To get it within the limit, we increase the generation for the other two units. So same way, if you can try this example for if there are two generators who are violating the limit, so that we can adjust the third generation units and check whether all the three generating units are within the limits. If that is not the case, then we can say that there is no optimum results and you have to go back to the input output characteristics, and before input output characteristics you have to do changes in the minimization or maximization objective function so as to obtain the quadratic equation properly. So let us meet in the next lecture with the numerical on the economic dispatch part 2. There we will cover few more example related to the economic dispatch for the generator limits when we impose more restrictions on the generator limits, and we will consider the graph analysis from the results or the output results whatever we have obtained. Thank you.